Hey guys, it's Caleb from Rokblokz. Today in the shop we have this 2025 Polaris XP 1000. We've got a new Fender extension kit for it, so let's go ahead and show you how to install it. Here we have the tools laid out that you'll need for install. You'll begin with a drill with a 5/16 and 1/4 inch drill bit. You'll need a T40 Torx. We have ours in this ratchet. You'll need a 4mm Allen, an 1/8 inch Allen, a number 10 box wrench. You can also use sockets in some places. You'll need a Phillips head screwdriver. A mallet is helpful when pushing in the inserts, and then we're going to use a couple of these clamps just to hold things in place when we get our alignment set on the vehicle. Here we have the front laid out. What you'll get in your kit is your front main, your front spine is what we're calling it, and your front accent, and then the hardware. We'll go ahead and put a breakdown of that hardware on the screen right now. Before we head to the vehicle, we're going to do a bit of assembly on the table here just to prep all of our parts to make install easier. We'll just start with the accent. We're going to flip it over so that the logo is face down. And we're just going to press in our larger M6 flange dome nuts. Now with those pressed in, that's prepped. Now we're going to take our main. We're going to flip that so that it's logo side down. We're going to take our number 10 flange dome nuts and we're going to press those into the hex-shaped holes right along here. Now we'll flip that back over. We're going to take our spine, and from the side with no logo as well, we're going to prep and start mounting our brackets here. To do so, we're going to use our 4 dress washers, our 4 countersunk or flathead screws, and our 4 lock nuts. So I'm going to go ahead and put that through a dress washer. I'm going to put that through the spine. I'm going to put that here, bracket on our screw, and we're going to secure that with a lock nut. We're going to repeat that for all 4 of these. Now that we've got all those on and mostly tightened, you want them a little bit loose so that you still have some play. We're going to go ahead and insert these 2 tabs into the rectangular slots in the main flap. I like to start with the smaller end and kind of swoop it in first and press it down in. And then we'll pick up the front here. We'll click that into place. Now we're going to lean the spine slightly to the side. Get all our brackets aligned with the screw holes right here in those dome nuts. Now we're going to take our number 10 1/4 inch screws with an 1/8 inch Allen. We're going to line those with the dome nuts. We're going to get those started. Work our way along the spine. If you want, you can put a little medium strength thread locker on these to help with vibration resistance. Okay. Now we got all of those, we'll snug them all down. Get them nice and tight. With those all tight, we'll double check all of our M6. All right, with those all tightened down, our next step is to add our M6 clips. So we're going to take it, and with the protruding side coming out on the same side as the spine, I like to start this one on the face here. Click it up and over so that it aligns with the hole. This one has a nice little cutout. Put those on. And now the last step is simply to just bend your upper flange. I like to overbend it, let it come back like that. Now we're good to take our flap, head over to the vehicle, and begin installing. Here we are at the front fender. We're going to begin by removing the 3 factory screws located in the fender well. One down here, 2 that go into the side of the frame. Those are just the T40 Torx. We've already pre-loosened ours, so we're just going to remove them. We're going to reuse these to mount our flap and our brackets. So we'll take those top 2. Grab from our hardware stash, grab our J brackets, and the way we're going to mount them is we're going to mount them using the short arm. So we'll put our screw through and then right back into the factory holes. Just go ahead and get them started by hand. Now we'll take our Torx bit and then go ahead and get those started. Now we're going to align the face of the long arm on your J bracket so that it follows the angle of this main frame, because the flap is going to mount in that orientation. So alignment is key. You want to get it set up, and then you want it fully snug down, keeping it directly in line with that. If it's not in line and if it's off just a bit, your flap will still mount, but it will cause some distortion more than normal. So you want to, alignment is key. There we go. Those are nice and snug. Now we can take our flap that we assembled on the bench, and we're going to take this central hole here with the clip, and that is going to align with our midpoint here in this first J bracket. And to do so, you'll put the flap in front of the J bracket, and then as soon as the clip gets close, you'll want to push it and flex it around so that it sits on the back side of the J bracket like so. The upper one will also sit behind the J bracket up there. Then you can go ahead, align the holes in your clips to the holes in the J brackets. Take your M6 button head, and that's going to thread into your clip there. Now I'll align the upper hole and thread that in up there as well. With that loosely in place, you can make some slight adjustments to make sure that your spine sits in the channel or the shape of the fender right here. Now we can go ahead, take our 4mm Allen, and I like to start with the top here, and I'm just going to get that snug down. Then I'm going to jump back to the 3rd OEM screw. That's going to go through this cutout tab here. That's going to flex back into that recess once tightened. So we'll go ahead, get that into position, and start threading it in. Now with that secured, we're good to jump back up. Check our flap, make sure everything's still good. Then I'm going to tighten this middle one. Tighten that fully. Now we're done with the middle section of the flap. We're going to work our way up to the top here. And to do so, we're going to utilize our clamps here just to hold it in place. You can do this by holding it by hand and drilling one at a time to make sure that your alignment stays there. I'm just going to go ahead, put some clamps. I'm going to align the inner edge of our fender with the inner edge of the new flare. Just aligning those two. And now all we have to do is match drill these 3 holes with a 5/16 bit. There we go. And because I trust the clamps, but it's also better to just go one at a time, I'm going to drill 1 hole, and then I'm going to push in my insert, move to the next hole. Now with our second hole drilled, we're just going to do the same thing and follow up with another insert. Now we can drill our final hole on the upper flange. There we go. Grab our last push pin, push that in, remove our clamps, and these are sometimes fairly difficult, so I like to take a mallet, kind of use it as a base to help press these in. Now with that, we can move down to the lower portion of the flap, match drill these 2 holes. As you can see, I have the tire turned towards the passenger side. That opens up a lot of clearance on the inside to match drill those holes as well. So I'm going to jump over on the other side and we'll match drill those. Now we've got both our holes drilled. We'll be able to press in our final 2 inserts. Like so. We'll take our mallet, use that to help expand those. Now all we need to do is grab our accent flap, align the holes, and mount that up. To mount your accent flap, you'll take your 1/2-inch thumb screws, you'll take your accent, you'll place it on the front side, align the 3 holes. The thumb screw will go through the main and into that flange nut that will hold the flaps together, keeping that accent in place. The accent is designed to be quick removal, so that way if you don't want it getting bound while you're rock crawling, you can peel it back and have that nice sleek shape of the upper flap for higher clearance. So go ahead and get these snug down by hand. If you want to tighten them a little bit tighter, the thumb screws have a hex head on the back side, which is a 5mm. You'll be able to snug those down even further. And there you go, that completes the front install. You can repeat these same steps on the other side. Now let's go ahead and jump to the rear. Here we have the rear laid out. What you'll get in your kit is your main flap for that corner, your accent, you'll get your rear roost flap, and then you'll also get your vent block-off plate for the side vents, and then you'll also get the hardware. We'll go ahead and put a breakdown of that hardware on the screen right now. As you can see, we have all the hardware next to its corresponding component. And so before we head to the vehicle, we just have a quick prep that we're going to do. We're going to take our clips and we're going to take the 2 J brackets for the main flap. And we're going to prep those by sliding it onto the shorter arm of the J bracket. Just like so. We're going to do that with 2 of them. And then the third one utilizes different hardware. So we'll get 2 of those prepped with the clips. Now we're good to head over to the vehicle and begin installing. So today we're going to be installing our vent block off and air dam, which will push air towards the motor but keep the splash from going back up through the vent. To do so, we're going to remove the 2 OEM screws from right here and right here. We've already pre-loosened ours, so we're just going to go ahead and remove those. Now we're going to reuse those, and we're going to take our J brackets. We're going to mount them on the small flange, or on the short arm of the J, and utilize the OEM screw to go right back into the holes that they came out from. So now we're going to, with them just slightly snugged up, we're going to angle them towards the vent, and so that way they come out this way. Trying to align with kind of the molded edge of the plastic right here. Doesn't have to be as precise as the front, but getting it pretty close is good. So we'll get it like so. Just reaching through the front of the vent to make this a little easier. It is pretty tight. Find my angle there. Snug that down. Now we're going to take our flap, one of our 1.25" washers with a 16 millimeter button head screw. We're going to put that screw through our flap, mount our flap on the front side of the J brackets. And then on the back side, we'll secure it using a small washer and an M6 lock nut. Just going to get the upper one started by hand. Now we'll move down to the bottom. Is a little tight working through the fender, but you should also be able to have some space to bring it up through here if you're not trying to be recorded. So that makes it a little easier there. So once we got both of those started, we'll take our 4 millimeter Allen and we'll put that into the head of the screw. Then we'll take our 10 millimeter. Now we're going to move up to the upper hole. Adjust our flap over. There will be just a small gap here. Get that snug down. With that snug down, that completes the install for the block-off plate. As you can see, your hand can still go through and the vent is still going to work and direct air towards your engine, but from the back here, the roost is not going to be able to go through and up and kind of splatter up into the cab. Above this point, you're just going to hit the inner plastics here, but this will block the spray that's going to try and come up and project forward through the vent. So here we are at the rear of the vehicle. We're going to install our first J bracket on the flap itself. To do so, we're going to take our 20 millimeter countersunk, put it through a dress washer, put our bracket on the bottom side, mounting it with the smaller arm first. Then we'll take our small washer and our lock nut. Grab our 10mm socket or wrench. Might be best with a wrench on this one, just because of the angle of the bracket. And now we're just going to go ahead, drop our tools, and get the bracket snugged down. When we get close to snugging it down, we'll orient it so that it matches the angle of the flap. And we'll show that. So right here, you want the bracket to be straight with that edge of the flap. Go ahead and rotate it so that way it's straight with that edge. We'll get that mostly snugged down so that it can slightly move but not very easy, and that'll be good for now until we get it into place. So now we can take our other two J brackets and mount it to the vehicle. We're going to begin with the back spot right here. We're going to remove the OEM screw up inside there. Already loosened ours, that T40 Torx. I'll take our J bracket with a small clip. That small clip is going to be on the bottom, and the J is going to come down and step out towards the outside of the fender. Go ahead and get that started. Make sure we're in forward. Make sure that's snug but not over tightened, and then you'll want to make sure that your J bracket is on the same plane as the actual fender that you see from the outside, not the flat portion on the inside here, so it will have a slight kick to it, but it will be straight with our fender here. Now we can go ahead, take our second J bracket, move up to the front mount here, remove that OEM screw, place it through our J bracket, and the J bracket is going to be oriented the same, where it comes down and kicks out towards the outside of the fender. You'll also want to get in there, inspect, and make sure that it also follows the angle of the fender, which will kind of slightly kick that bracket on an angle. It won't be perfectly perpendicular up and down. It'll be slightly kicked towards the back a little bit, just to match the angle of the fender. Now we can go ahead, grab our flap, grab our 2-inch washer, and our 3/4 inch screw. We're going to take the flap. This gap is going to go around the fender right there. And we're going to go up into that first J bracket. Now we're going to take our Phillips head screw. Get that snugged down. Now we're going to lift our fender extension up and align it with the inner edge of the fender along here. Once we get that into place, I like to take some clips just to free up my hands a little bit. Now we're going to utilize the hole here, and we're going to match drill through just the one layer of plastic What that'll do is that should expose your clip behind, so you don't want to just go drilling and drill up into your metal clip. Just get through the plastic and then pull it back out. Now with that hole drilled, we can go ahead, take our 7.5mm spacer, and we're going to slide that between the fender and the J bracket there, sliding it up to align all the holes. Now with that fully aligned up and our spacer in there, we can go ahead, take our 1.25" washer with an 1.25" screw, and we can go right up into our clip. Take our Phillips head screwdriver, go ahead, screw that in. If your J bracket is straight when you drill, it won't be aligned, so you may need to loosen that back up and kind of kick it back till it aligns. Now, with those two fully secured, we can go ahead, and I'm going to start with this middle point here. We'll double check, make sure everything's still aligned. Take our 5/16 drill bit. Drill through the fender. Take our push-in insert. Pop that into place. Now we can align the nose here. Drill through there. Take our push-in insert. Pop it through. At this point, I'll take the mallet and expand those. We can remove our clips. Now our last hole for the main flap, we have to switch over to our 1/4" drill bit. For the last hole, we're going to come up to our bracket here. We're going to take a Sharpie. We'll hold it into position. Mark where we want our hole. With that still being slightly loose, we're going to kick it to the side just enough to create some clearance so that we can take our drill and drill right where our dot is. Now we can take our last 16mm button head, push that through the bracket, through our fender, and secure it on the backside with a small washer and a lock nut. Go ahead, take our 4mm Allen and our 10mm socket. Now we can fully tighten the top using our box wrench. And that completes the main flap install. Now we're going to go ahead and grab our accent. This will come in a variety of colors. The install is fairly simple. All you'll need to do is take the nose here, align it with the seam or the body line between the plastics down here, and that's going to be our starting point. And I'm just going to clamp that into place. And then you just align the inner edge along the whole thing, and then double check, make sure that these two pieces align nicely along the outer edge. And then we're just going to start. Switch back over to our 5/16 drill bit. And we're just going to start right here at the top. We'll hold that and pinch it into place, having our clamp there, or if you have a second set of hands, that'll be helpful. And just like everything else, we like to drill, come back, install our insert, and then we'll move on to the next one, just to make sure that our alignment stays best as possible. Double checking that it stayed even along the inside right here. So now we're going to move to our next one. Drill, clean, put in our insert. Now with all our inserts in place, I'm going to take my mallet, kind of use it to help press those in. You'll want to help support the flange from behind. If you just go smacking it, there's not much structure, it'll probably just bounce off. Now with those all expanded in place, we're good to move on to the roost flap. Now we're going to take our roost flap, which is the lower flap that extends the furthest back. You don't have to install it, it's sort of optional as the kit is modular. If you just want the upper main section, you can just install that and have light protection. If you want medium protection, you add the accent up front. And for full protection, to get even further back to catch more of that roost, we include this flap. So to begin, we're going to remove this OEM screw right here. It's just a T40 Torx, already pre-loosened ours. Now we're going to grab our 2-inch washer. And we're going to take that, and we're going to go through that first hole, put that right back up into the OEM clip. You might have to align the inner structure while you're doing this. Go ahead and get that started. Now it's just going to align along the inner edge here. And I'm just going to take my clamps just to kind of help hold that in place. There we go. Kind of aligning all the plastic all the way down to here. Just make sure that it's aligned. Now we can take that T40 Torx, tighten that down, and working our way towards the middle of the vehicle, we're going to go ahead with our 5/16 drill bit. Drill a hole, push in our insert, and drill our final hole. Like so. Push in our last insert, remove our clips. Take our mallet, there we go. They're snug, you can kind of just open up the hole a little bit. They're nice and snug. good to go. Now with that rear roost flap installed, that completes the rear install. You can repeat these same steps on the other side. Thanks for watching.